To get with the programming, I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
And along with me is Bill Grundler. Wolverine. I just got to say how much I love that intro video.
That's so good. It's so good.
It encapsulates everything that we are.
I love it. What's cool is it's flashing through. I'm like, I remember that picture. I remember we did that.
Yeah.
I remember there too.
And every time I get like new photos, just like Dylan Malitsky had sent us old photos.
Oh, dude, those were crazy.
Like the very first Wadapalooza we covered.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I want to add those into the Rolodex. I was like, but then I got to pay some dude in like Indonesia another $50. Can you just add this in the file, please? Happy Friday, everyone. We are going to analyze the programming of the Mayhem Classic, which just went down last weekend. We are 6 days from that because it was a Saturday, Sunday event. 2 days, 20 athletes, 20 and 18. That was great. There'll be a few things we're going to talk about today as we shift from online competition, which we did the age group semis, to in-person qualifiers, is what they're called again, which I don't know why. Like,
I know. Weird name.
Of all the things we changed this year, that's the most annoying one to me. But we'll talk about all these in-person qualifiers. I saw someone put IPQEs, in-person qualifying events.
Qualifying.
First of all, I was like, what the hell?
Remember how hard it was to say the AGQ?
AGOQ, because that'd go AGOC.
Yeah.
Like, qualifiers doesn't start with a C. And then I give my son crap for not being able to spell, even though he's only 7. And I'm the world's worst speller. Space Wolves. What's up, Wex? Speaking of my son, before we get to it, just some life updates. My son has his very first baseball game this weekend.
Oh, dang.
Doubleheader as well.
Wow.
Yes.
Throw him to the Space Wolves. Look at that.
Thrown the and currently, if like Chase, you're sitting up a little taller. I am, because I'm sitting on my son's damn baseball glove, trying to loosen this sucker up.
Is it like new?
No, he got it. It's probably a year or two.
Okay.
But when I got it, it was, his hand still isn't big enough to open and close it.
Yeah.
But I sit at my chair all day. And I was like, I'll just sit on this thing. So I'm sitting on my son's baseball glove to kind of loosen this thing up. So if I'm leaning to the right, it's like right under my right butt cheek. So I feel like George Costanza, which dramatically ages both Bill and I immediately.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Nobody's going to get it. But I'm excited. And we talk about kids a lot sometimes. And the thing I have always tried not to do is to play the I can't wait game. And you know, right? It comes way faster than you want it to. And then when it's here, you're almost sad. But you're like, 6 years ago, I was like, I can't wait to throw a baseball with you in the backyard.
Those are the hardest. Those are the ones that kill me. Not like when it's going to come up or whatever, but it's like when you all of a sudden say something like that. Man, I was like 6 years ago. And then you're like, holy shit, it was 6 years ago.
Yeah. Yes.
Damn it.
Looking at the pictures of us from 2015, I was like, damn.
But I look exactly the same.
We don't look that much different. A few more smile lines in our eyes.
Yeah, that's okay. Smile lines aren't bad.
We're having a good life. That being said, is that I am so excited to see him not even play baseball. I'm just excited to see him in a baseball uniform.
That's cool.
I don't know what it is about that. Like lacrosse, he's been all geared up, basketball jerseys, flag football. He's not, but something about a baseball jersey, I can't wait to see it.
That's cool.
And I'm so excited. And that'll be tomorrow.
That's cool, man.
Tomorrow. So that's a little life update from the Ingram household. But let's talk about the Mayhem Classic. Now, a few things here. This is the very first in-person qualifying event. TR, is that trademark?
Wow. Yeah.
I don't know. We're trying to say it the right way. Of the season, of the 2025 game season, they're sending out they're sending athletes to the CrossFit Games in April.
That to me blows my mind.
Now, I know we sent them straight from the games, but that was just a weird, funky year out of the open in what was it, 2020 or October of 2019, however they did it.
Second one that they did that year.
Remember
they had 2 that year?
God, it was awful.
That was so weird.
If you talk about a drop off, it was like, oh, this drop off this year is did we drop off a cliff in 2019? Yeah, we dropped off this year, but it was nothing compared to that. So it was now that we've got 2 athletes going to the CrossFit Games. You've got Austin Hatfield and Colton Mertens, and you have Abby Domit and Fee Sagafi. And we talked about this on the in-person qualifiers. When it comes to programming, there is now an element of people there in person watching, live streams with people watching. And Dave has done a very good job of this, and he had to evolve himself in the early days of CrossFit, is that there needs to be a viewership-friendly element to not necessarily the programming, yes, to a certain extent, like what you program, but how you unveil the programming on the competition floor for the casual fan.
Mm-hmm. You remember when he used to not care about that?
Yeah.
Remember the battle between him and and Tony Budding?
Oh, Tony, yeah.
Tony wanted to make it look like a sport, and Dave's like, I don't care what it looks like. Mm-hmm. Now Dave's totally come around and be like, okay, I get it. It needs to look a certain way.
And Tony was right.
No, he was.
And we mentioned that in the online versions, you don't have to worry about that. You're going to do 150 wall ball shots in one spot. Okay. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, but in person, you're like, oh, God, what number are they on? 70 what? I don't even know.
Right. And what was it, one year at the CrossFit Games, it was the team finale where they had Karen at the end. Mm-hmm. And I think they had 3 wall ball targets for each lane, and you had to do 50, 50, 50.
Yeah.
But even then, you're 50 reps in, what rep are they on?
I know.
Everyone is, we talked about how we got so spoiled this weekend in the broadcast because of live scoring.
That was massive.
Nobody else is
massive.
Going to have that unless they have some weird program that Wadapalooza tried it a little bit. It was somewhat successful, somewhat unsuccessful. And that was such a nice thing to have. And we'll mention in a few events of why that was so valuable to have. And if not, what could have been modified setup wise that would have helped all of that. But the other thing is, we talked about this. Actually, we just made a post about this, is 5 events in 2 days. Traditional regional semifinals, it's been 6 events over the course of 3 days. Sometimes it's been 7. And more events makes it easier to program a more balanced test of fitness. Less events makes it more difficult. It doesn't make it impossible. Someone is like, oh, how do you do it in 3 events? It's you can do it in 3 events.
You can do it.
You can do it. You have to spend some time. It's not like solving a Rubik's Cube. For those of you that can solve it easily, all right, fine. But with 5, the question was, are there enough events to now send people to the CrossFit Games? And that just comes down to focusing on what you're supposed to do in the programming. And, Bill, when you look at semifinals now, we did the open. I think different than online semifinals because that whole path is programmed and guardrailed by CrossFit itself. So what happened in the open matters on what you program in online semifinals because it's coming from CrossFit and it's in the affiliate.
Right.
Even the same a little bit if CrossFit was programming a standardized regional format or a standardized semifinal format. What we did in the open should be considered when we're going to the to the qualifying stage. How do you see it though in this format where now you have all these in-person qualifying events from all these standalone competitions? Should they take into account what happened in the open as part of how they look at what they program in semifinals to send people to the CrossFit Games.
100%. I think they should. In fact, I think that when CrossFit is going through their allocations of who gets to do what events, and it can't just it can't be, and I'll say it shouldn't be, where it's like, okay, you get to go ahead and decide. You get some people who did well over here in the open, and you just get to decide whatever you want to do to have your version of a fit athlete go through, because that I do think that changes. I mean, we've already seen it. Like, unless you are a staunch, diehard CrossFit, where you live and breathe by the definitions of CrossFit,
right?
Then all of a sudden you have these weird versions of who you think is fit or who you think is not fit. Like, we have our definitions for it. And so the open needs to be taken into consideration. And I don't think, just like in the age group qualifier, I don't think there needs to be repetition of the exact same movements. If we already did something to filter people through, we already did it. So I do think it's absolutely, and I have a hard time, even though I know that Rich did this one and it's cool. And, we'll get into talking about all the different parts of this particular weekend, but I will always be nervous about letting people do whatever they want, because it's everyone. It's kind of like, it's like when you talk about all the different religions, there's like one Bible, and like there's like 900 religions all based on the same thing, because they're all different interpretations. And that's the part where I get worried.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I feel the same way. We've had this discussion, and we promise we'll do a show on this, is standardized programming versus everybody else can do what they want.
Well, and I think especially when we get to the end of the season, when we get to the games, like, that will be really interesting to see, like, okay, who went versus.
If the games is the ultimate test of fitness, as it should be, I'm really excited to see how certain events athletes perform at the CrossFit Games.
Totally.
Because what a cool badge of honor for, say, the Mayhem Classic, right? In, say, Colton and Austin podium at the CrossFit Games. You're like, see, our athletes kicked that, because they're your athletes now.
Right.
We would do that at regionals.
Right.
I'm from the South Central. We occupied the bottom 5 spots as if we were from Asia. I was one of them. Before you get mad at me, look at the leaderboard.
And then you had the Central East. It was like all the top 10.
It was South Central, Africa, and Asia for years. That's what it was.
That's funny.
The men, the women, not as much. The women were better. The women were way better than the men were.
Right.
That's what it was like, and I feel like that should be a badge of honor for semifinal events. Actually, Kevin, that's a good point. Isn't Mayhem programming a few semifinals? Yes, they are. I feel like are they doing the Far East? Are they might be doing 1 or 2 more.
See, now, if I was them, I would do the same ones.
Oh.
If I was Rich and I was programming 3 of the semifinals, I would make all those the same.
Interesting.
But again, that's looking through my eyes as Rich.
Yeah.
That's my eyes as, like, I believe that it should be a standard app. Like, I program this. I know how good this. If I'm programming something, I believe that I put together a complete test. Why wouldn't I have these other people doing? If I'm the program for those other regional events,
Yeah. Rich helping with the NCC, good. It'd be a great balance of outside the box versus classic.
Yeah, you'll have to walk with buckets held out here.
Like, all right, I'll give
and
you.
And then do Fran.
You got to put them on a yoke. You can't just iron cross buckets from below. That's funny. Bryson. Oh, what's up, Bryson? From a creativity standpoint, taking into account what you did in the open is important just to draw interest and make the workouts look cool. But in terms of programming semis, the open doesn't matter.
It totally matters because we're taking 1% to the semis. It does matter.
I mean,
I think, and I'm not talking about the top. Whenever you're talking about qualifying through, you can't look at qualifying the absolute best. The games is for that. The games crowns the best, but you got to look at the field that you're moving through. So I do think it's important to get that you have the right 1% in there,
right?
Because you're going to have guys like Kale, who was 7th last year when the Open didn't matter, to this year when it did matter, he was 5th, and then look what happened.
Right.
I think it is important. I think it's important.
I think you guys are both saying the same thing, but looking at it from different angles, because it does. I mean, that point itself, where he says the Open could have a hanging workout with dense pulling, and if you're elite that sucks at that, you'll still make semifinals, but doesn't mean you make the games. Right.
No, I agree. That is true. I agree with that. Yeah.
Tom says the issue with standardized is that once the first event happens, all the other has time to practice. No, that wasn't an issue because they don't compete against each other. So it was never an issue. So, man,
the only downside to that, and I knew you remember this, is when it was standardized, and you were the last weekend to go. God, you were so tired of doing those events.
Yeah, but that's on
everyone. No, but that's on you, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. Like, I didn't care. They did a worldwide ranking, but it really didn't mean anything. It's not like you didn't get seeded because of that.
Yeah,
you just got in. So,
right. I think the only thing they did seeding wise, it wasn't region to region. It was never region to region, so it didn't matter.
Right.
But seeding wise, they'd be like, all right, if you got 3rd in this region, then you're in the first heat. And if you got 2nd, you're in the 2nd heat and first, or something like that.
Yeah. But you made it. I mean, it's but it isn't like you had to go up against the best person, get your ass kicked, and then you're out.
Yeah.
It wasn't that.
Yeah, and if you did a worldwide comparison leaderboard, yes, then there's something in there, but still.
Well, and that was
for fun.
Yeah, we just did that. That was more just for talking points' sake. That wasn't like this person. I mean, they would say the world record thing, but I think that was more just to fire people up and get
way better than event record. I will say that.
Yeah, true.
Event record.
The test record.
The test record. God, that was the worst. We should do a show on Mount Rush moments. Top 4 worst phrases ever used by HQ.
I think it would be pretty easy to get it.
There was one time, nobody really knows behind the scenes here. We were asked to be to not say the word CrossFitter.
Not allowed to say CrossFitter. Yeah,
and you probably still shouldn't. There's some legality watering down issues there, but that was the whole thing. I mean, you thought that was bad? You should have been there in the media boot camp when the producers and directors told the females that you weren't allowed to hug athletes on the competition floor. I think that was the first time I lost my shit in a meeting.
Do you
remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. We were so new. We didn't know.
We
had no idea what the hell was going on.
High five, bros, side. I mean, there's a great video of Rory interviewing Rich, and then he's touching his chest in the middle of the interview. Or hugs and daps and all that stuff. And then they're like, hey, listen, if we're going to be professional, you can't dap up somebody in the middle of an interview or give them a hug on camera. And all the dudes were like,
okay,
all right.
And the girls started crying.
They were, I mean, you would have thought they asked them to broadcast topless. The reaction that they had, it was crazy.
Oh, it was so funny.
And by the end of it, it was 10 minutes of this. And I'm like, what? Just don't do it. Wait for the little red light to turn off. And then that's all they're saying is don't do it on camera. It's unprofessional. Why is it unprofessional? Because it looks like there's some type of bias or whatever.
Totally. It's like nepotism.
You hug every person that you interview. No, okay, well then that's weird. There shouldn't. That's it's called professionalism, and that's what they wanted from us. This is when they were making us wear suits and ties for the Open.
We tried.
But it's just so funny. They just couldn't. That was it. That was the line. That was really funny. All right, let's get to the task at hand. Analyzing the programming. Event number 1. Dear CrossFit Mayhem, I ripped all of your content to make slides for this. So,
Rich won't mind because it's all Rich. He
look
won't
at
mind.
that. Look at how good that looks. In fact, this is a great picture to add in some movement patterns that I feel like some people would offhand poo-poo. And I'm like, no, that's part of it. Event number 1, 4-time. Well, I didn't say 3 rounds, but this is 3 rounds. 800-meter run, 20 burpee box get-overs at 48 inches, 40 feedback squats at 100 for the men, 70 for the women. And this was the longer one. Some people were sub 20. More people were over 20. This was a long event. This was a high volume event. The weight was relatively light for those athletes. You throw a 100-pound bag on me, I'm lucky to get to 20 before I put it down. Triplet scheme, and it has everything in here. It has the runs, it has the burpees, it has the bags. And I'll be honest, before it went, and we always want to look at on paper, not react, let it unfold in person, and then we have a better understanding of what actually took place in the programming. And the big conversation coming into this is that the runs and the squats are going to help 2 different people. And who's it going to be more advantageous to? And a lot of the discussion was, okay, the squats are really going to separate the field more than the runs would, and the burpee get-overs in between. It's really hard to separate yourself there. Yes, they're longer reps, but it's not really something that anyone's going to get out-paced in or out-skilled in versus, say, a run or a squat.
Right.
I really enjoyed this way more than I thought I was. I was like, okay, a long event. Because usually the long events, you're like, get it. We got to put something long in there. All right, we did it. Let's move on. This was great. The races were great. Not just the top 2. People focus so much on the squats and like, oh, it's a short person workout. And then they totally discount what Emily Rolfe did.
Yeah.
There was an opportunity to be very successful here if you were willing to push the runs,
right,
like those who were good at the squats, push the squats.
That's what I thought was the most interesting part with it was usually on the run, you're just kind of sitting back and watching. I felt like there was a lot of anxiety watching it because it's like, oh, dang, are they going to push on this one?
Right.
Because they're not going to be able to do on this other part. So you have to make up. If you know that you're going to have a harder time on the squat, you got to go faster on the run. You have to somehow try to bank up some sort of time there. And all the athletes, it was like a cool poker game where everyone played their hand and everyone had a very specific hand. So this wasn't like one of those events where it was, generally speaking, you could just say, here's the strategy. Like go easy on the run, but make sure you push it was, you need to know exactly where your strength is.
Yeah.
So you can, leverage against whatever your weakness is going to be. And that's what was really interesting. There was a lot of strategy in this. It was really cool.
Yes. And it
way cooler than it should have been, honestly.
It wasn't just like, oh, squatters. It's like, yes, but they had Colton and Austin didn't win this event or top 2 this event just because they were smaller, good squatters. They hammered the hell out of those squatters, but they also ran fast.
Right.
They were not loafing the run so they could squat faster. And thank God Emily Rolfe won this event, Queen Long Legs over there, because she hammered the hell out of that run and then tried to hold on for the squat. And Fee was the total opposite.
Yep. That's what was so interesting.
And the only reason people got ousted one way or the other is because they didn't hammer the one thing they needed to.
Yeah.
Or hammer the one thing that was going to draw them back for fear of not being able to do well on this. This is way more balanced than I thought was going to happen. And thank God Emily Rolfe did what she did to prove the point. Yeah, I'm going to squat slower than Fee, but I'm going to have to work my ass off on the squats, knowing she's going to get ahead of me purely on range of motion, and Fee was pushing the pace as hard as she could on the squats. And then Emily went out there and just tried to sprint the runs, knowing she needed to do that to offset what Fee was doing on the squats. And then in the middle, In the middle, he was catching Emily on the burpee get-overs.
Yeah.
And she's like a foot shorter than her.
You know how like a lot of events, like one of the things we hate to say is this is a short guy event or a tall guy event or just on pure aesthetics. It's always so cool to have an event where like there's an element for both athletes, so you really do get to see them race. It's not just I'm trying to like damage control. It's not a damage control event. It's I need to make sure that I use my piece because the other part is for the other guy, and to have that balance. And it actually worked out really well. For that. This was a way cooler event than I thought it was going to be.
Agreed.
And I'm really glad that they had it in there, because I think if you're going to qualify someone to the games, you need to have some people that can run decently.
Yeah.
So
every year.
Yeah.
Every year. All right. Movement patterns, obviously cardiorespiratory endurance, stamina. Power with the box get over, have to be explosive to get on the box. Coordination, agility, just that whole get over. I think Bryson is about like your hips couldn't touch. Right? There's a lot of coordination involved.
Right.
Running, leg fatigue, burpee, pressing off the floor, heavy press, get overs, a jump, and a press. Like there was a press off the box that was greatly fatiguing to people, which is why you saw some of them doing their, what was it, Alexis Raptis with her elbows. Like you don't do that because your arms are not tired from pressing. And then obviously the squat with the sandbag. You think the press snuck up on people?
Not right away, but yeah, towards the end. Well, it snuck up. I think they weren't ready for. I don't think they were expecting it.
Yeah.
Because no one is going to think about the press on the get over.
Right.
But you're still supporting.
Yeah. Right. This reminded me of the 2013 burpee.
I was just thinking that. Totally just thinking that. Well, people would do the burpee, they'd go down to their they'd kind of roll and be like some sort of like steel thing.
I would go super wide and pull my knees up under my chest really quickly.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to push up the floor because people just started failing ring dips.
I know. Yeah.
So double press on those. Equipment used, box sandbag, one weightlifting pattern. Jump and a press for our gymnastics movements, one of everything. Two gymnastics, like the burpee is different. A box of get over is different. That's why it's two. Long tie domain, and we have our monostructural on the run. Next event, heavy Isabel. How do you feel about it being programmed where it was programmed after event 1 versus, say, moving it to day number 2?
I'm fine with it because first of all the athletes are going to be competing together. It's their strength event, if you want to look at it that way, because of the weight that it was. And for some of the athletes to be able to do that. But I think that what it would do would take, hopefully, some of the gas out of some of your top athletes so that you can kind of even the playing field a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of like it where it is. I think all these athletes, and I'm looking at the mass of the athletes, not the ones that are at the bottom end, but the mass of the athletes, they can all handle a snatch at 225, 155, fine. So they've all, I'm going to say that they've all done heavy Isabel. Either once it was announced, but I think even before that. So I think it's fine that they had it right at this point.
I love that they had it here.
I mean, make their legs smoky. That's okay.
Right.
That's okay.
Now, again, let's not see. I think if this was event 1, I'm like, all right, well, just make it a 1 rep max. It's gonna be the same result.
Right. That's what I mean. So I think it's good that they added some heat to their legs before they went. Now, the fact that they didn't make it squat snatch, I think that putting all those squats in front, okay, it's like, okay, we tired your legs out specifically now. Mm-hmm. You can do whatever you want. If you want to power it, cool. If you don't have the explosiveness and you need to just get under the bar now because you don't have that the power that you need. So you have to drop into squat. Okay, fine. So I think it does make it better having that burner right before it. I don't say better. I like it better that way. I think that was a good place to put it.
I like it, especially with the number of events we had.
I would hate it if it was on the second day, because I don't want them blasted. I don't want them wrecked after the events and then do this. I want it like you're fatigued from the event before, but you're not broken from the competition yet.
Right. And you do want to give, like, we just went super long. So to come in here and go short and heavy is a bad. Do you know who's leading for the women after day number 1?
Was it Fee?
Nope. Oh, yes. It was Fee and?
Oh, who was she tied? She was tied, huh?
It's Fee and Abby.
Abby, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Do you know who's leading the competition for the men, tied in points at the end of day number 1?
Austin and Colton.
Austin and Colton. And we had 3 events to change the end of those results on day number 2. So at the end of day 1, with the long high volume test and a short heavy intensity stamina test, you had already had your top 2 at the top.
Isn't that crazy?
Just saying.
Kind of interesting. It's
kind of interesting.
Interesting coincidence.
Kind of interesting. All right, with the snatches, it's one movement: hinge, pull, press. Press just being that lockout. They're like, oh, there's no pressing. I'm like, have you failed a power snatch before? Without the squat, you can take out a flexibility, balance, and agility piece, and it's just kind of grip and rip from the floor. That's why the squat basically covers all 9 of the 10. And nothing really changes. We added a barbell for the equipment, weightlifting pattern. You round out your top 4: squat, pull, press, hinge. Add another weightlifting movement. Monostructural stays the same. Time domain, we have 1 long, 1 short. Event number 3, 27, 21, 15, 9, dumbbell thrusters. I forgot it was 55 and 40.
Yeah.
Versus 50 and 35.
Just
and then the leg rope climbs.
Just a little extra.
Just a little extra. Short time domain, your top time, 6 to 7 minutes. God, it's so fast. Low reps, lightweight, couplet, weightlifting and gymnastics. Starting day number 2. Legs probably are aware of what they did the day before. Actually, just, 110 pounds? So 10 pounds more than the weight they did previously. Obviously, now we're going overhead. Fran, there's your Fran test. Squat, press, pull.
Right.
Fran-ish, Fran akin to. What are your thoughts on this one kicking off the day for day number 2?
I really liked the race. I mean, if I didn't know like what the final was going to be.
Oh yeah, we didn't know yet.
Right. If I didn't know, yeah. I like the event. This would have been a great final event. Just the way it was set up, you know.
Oh man, that'd have been a crazy
races.
final.
And it also would have and we've done that in the past with some of the rope climb events, the thruster rope climb events. We've had that in regionals, and it puts pressure. The one thing that it would do if it was at a final is it forces people to do the rope climbs because it's the end. Right. And like you're trying to push all in. And geez, I have so many sound bites so far this show. The push so far in. Oh my gosh.
Hope your brother's not watching.
I know, seriously. But the fact that you have that you're trying to make it into the top 2, you're trying to get up onto the podium, you're trying to do whatever. So if it was at the final, you would have, I think, a lot more fails on the rope climb. But I really did like this event. God, the race was so good.
Yes.
I mean, especially on the men's side between Austin and Colton. That was unreal.
Colton is the thing that has held him back from the games in the past has been legless.
Yeah.
He is getting way better though. So it's like when we're like, oh, Rich can't climb a rope from 2011. or 2010. Like, no, it's not a thing anymore.
Right.
Right. And then he became the best at it. It was like, oh, you can get down the rope like that? I didn't know that was a thing. Then him and Ben Smith are just like fire pulling the rope. I'm like, damn, I need to figure out how to do that. Still haven't figured out how to do that. But knowing that is not a strength for Colton, I was curious if Hatfield can keep pace with him. And then that touch and go on the last two legless for Hatfield. That was awesome. Still not as good of a finish as the 2013 legless, though. That was
right. But the race is amazing. The race is amazing. Matt said something about here that with the dumbbells being a nice twist. I agree with that. Like dumbbell work is always so much harder than barbell work.
Yes.
You got to have a heavier barbell, and it would be so much easier.
I like dumbbells.
I mean, they're awesome, but
no, I get it. Yeah,
they can go all over the place, especially with that fatigue. So, like, it's the control, the extra control and stability you have to have with a dumbbell versus a barbell is massive. So they up the dumbbell weight just a little bit. And you know how, I mean, we've seen that in the open a bunch of times where Dave would do, like, if you're doing Fran 95, 65, but then all of a sudden in the open it's 170. Like, God dang it. It's really not that big of a deal until after you do 100 reps and you're like, oh, that was a big deal.
True.
And so I liked that he had that here.
David makes a great point. Every workout has had an historical weakness for Colton. 100%.
Yep.
Running used to be one.
Yep.
Top end strength used to be one. Legless used to be one. Handstand walking kind of still is.
We're getting there.
And biking. And he still took second.
Yep.
With the likes of Roman Krennikov, James Sprague, and Jason Hopper. I think everybody was trying to see what Colton was going to do this weekend. Yeah, we'll talk about that, John. That's a good question. At the end of his debate, big guy, small guy.
You want to?
You do it at the end? Or just do it per?
I mean, we could do it at the end. I think what's interesting with Colton with this, especially, and as we're coming into the second day, the difference is, he has worked on a lot of his weaknesses for sure, and he's gotten a lot better. I mean, he's just so good. But the difference is, I think we talked about it on when we had JR on here, is that the guy is always ready.
Yeah.
And I don't think athletes were ready this early. And he's always ready. So because of that gave him an advantage.
Well, who was also ready, and this surprised me, and I should probably stop being surprised about this, is Abby Dummett.
Dude, yeah, totally.
She went on the spin this past Wednesday, and was like, my whole goal was to qualify at this event.
Right.
The reason why she looked peaked. I mean, just physically peaked.
Dude, jacked.
The peak she's ever looked as an athlete. And she showed it out there on the competition floor. All right, thrusters, rope climbs, squat and press, and our first pull as far as gymnastics on the board. Another press. Got some dumbbells, got a rope on the equipment being used, weightlifting pattern. Got another squat, got another press, gymnastics, upper body pulling. So we got one of each over here. Modality, throw in some more gymnastics and weightlifting. Time domains, 2 short, 1 long. Monostructural still from the run. As we move to event number 4, 3 rounds, 50 GHD sit-ups, 100-foot overhead dumbbell walking lunge with 170 pounds for men and women. Then a 100-foot handstand walk, very reminiscent of the midline march from 2014. How do you like the really just 2 of them? I mean, Heavy Isabel is related to Rich in a different format.
Right.
But the legless thruster and then this midline march version. You like the bringing back with slight modifications and twists?
Do I like him?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I like, my favorite way to do events like this is that there's a nod to the event, not just a full copy of the event.
Right.
Mostly because, especially if you're looking at older games events, like as programmers and coaches, we program these for people.
Right.
As athletes, you're always like, oh, I wonder what they did on this. I wonder where I would have compared to. So you would have played that. So everyone has already done the event. So I think it's good to have it tweaked to where you don't get to have it the exact same way. You're never going to be 100% like, oh, I know where my splits are going to be. I know exactly what my pace is going to be. And I know where I need to be this and that. You're going to have to feel it a little bit more. So I like that. I think it's a great nod to have. And I think that makes it fun. I do think it's interesting that all of these events, it would be like if I was picking my own favorite events that I did really well in, and then it's like, all right, we're going to make everyone race on my favorite events. You know what I mean? Because that's what Rich is doing.
Yeah,
Midline March and the heavy, the heavy Isabel, and
maybe not event 1.
Well, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
but generally speaking, like that one to me seems like one of the barn events.
Yeah. Well, he said he programmed this for Mayhem Athlete a while back, or it's like we've done something like this before. I mean, this is the in-affiliate version of Midline March. You're not going to walk that distance with the drum, the drum plates. I can't believe they made those things just for this.
I think it's awesome. I think it's so cool.
I believe it was to create less divots in the ground if it were to be dropped. Didn't make a difference.
It did not make a difference.
The finish line.
It was so, like, because they would drop them hard, and I remember watching. I think it was Josh Bridges when he was trying to pull the bar out of the ground.
There he is, left the screen.
Like his hands were like going into the grass, trying to grab their way out of the thing.
Like watching Savon do 25.1.
Yeah.
Like, how's that lateral jump over the dumbbell?
Right, it's easy because it's buried.
Man, I didn't forget, but there's things I enjoy watching people do. Like if you have a good squat, I just enjoy looking at that. Rich's overhead position is just so nice. I just like Justin Medeiros' overhead position.
Yeah,
is so good. Daniel Brandon's overhead position.
Yeah, I think it's because it looks so comfortable.
Yes.
Like most people, when they're in it, they're like straining and they're fighting for that position, or they're working to be that position. Like you look at Rich right there, it's just, it looks comfortable.
He's like, all right, it's locked in.
Locked in. We're just moving.
Barbell engaged. And then you like, I'm not taking shots, but you look at Annie.
Oh, dude.
Her overhead position, especially like a snatch overhead squat. Every time I'm like, please God, your elbow snap. It's what I've always wanted my overhead position to look like that.
You got a good overhead position. What are you talking about?
Yeah, it's not bad, but it's not that. But, all right, GC sit-up, dumbbell overhead lunge, handstand walk. So much interference in here. It's fantastic. Like even on the GC sit-ups, there's no real leg reprieve. And then you go to the dumbbell walking lunge. And now your core is smoked. You have a dumbbell over your head. You have to stabilize with your upper body and your core. Now you're lunging. And then you put the dumbbell down and you get a kick up upside down after you just did 50 GHD sit-ups trying to get your equilibrium back. Mm-hmm. And you're going overhead. Core is more fatigued. Legs get a break. Like all the blood goes down to your face.
I always get a headache on GHD.
I did.
Hate it.
And then you got to go back to the GHD.
You're like, oh.
I love the movement combo.
Yeah.
I really do. I like the dumbbell twist. You could tell that was really weighing on people as they're carrying it through. I really enjoy the volume, just the fatiguing element that they have in here going into the final.
Hey, did we, as a whole, somewhere take out the standard for the GHD?
I don't know.
Like what?
I feel like that was better than what I've seen in the past.
Dude, come on, Emily Rolfe. Come on.
Oh, no.
Her butt was literally on the.
They got to figure that out.
They got to figure it out. It was because to me, like all of a sudden now you're going to use I mean, if I was like one of the tall guys, my butt would be on the crossbar. It wouldn't even be on the pad. I would have just had my back on the pad.
I'd be doing like I was at a level 1.
Flapping my arms back and forth the whole time on the. Like there would be no flexion at all. I would just be my arms going back.
They got to figure that out.
They got to figure that out. It's so hard to watch that because I can't not see it because I remember when it was that way and Tommy Hackenbrook and his guys, like no one said, so they did it and it's cool. And then all of a sudden from that event, they went back and they said, okay, your butt has to be on or at or off the front end of the pad. And so I have a hard time watching that. I can't not see it now.
Yeah, it bothers me. Matt Burns, flexibility for the overhead squat position? ? No, because you're lunging.
Yeah, your arm should be straight up.
Yeah. That's why people would split snatch.
Yep.
Is because when you split your legs back and forth, even when you split jerk, it takes away the need to have a good overhead position, which focuses on flexibility. So with the lunges, no, it's not enough to be there. Yeah, sure. If you have like if you can't straighten your arm.
If you're doing your Elon Hitler,
don't do that. Yeah.
You're good.
Piss George from the porch off. All right. Adding in a dumbbell, adding in a GHD, weightlifting patterns. You have a lunge, you have an overhead press stability with the carry. Gymnastic movements patterns, you got core flexion, more pressing with the handstand walk. Adding 2 gymnastics in a weightlifting movement, time domains, 2 short, 1 long, 1 moderate, and still the 1 monostructural element. And we come to our 5th and final event when this background got released, which I thought was so cool.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I was like, oh, which one's going to be? The whole... it's the thing that Spin dove into, but when this was there twice, I can't remember who put it in the chat, but we're like, this has got to be the final. And even if it's not the final, please make this the final.
Right.
Because this is a final event. Sprint on the bike, 30 bar muscle ups, sprint on the bike, go. And this is our sprint. Like, is it a sprint? I'm like, did you watch Roman do this? Watch that. It was crazy. What was also crazy is if you guys go back and watch it, is watch James Sprague on the first 30. I'm sure he's going hard.
It doesn't look like it,
but he looks so steady and calm.
Dude, there was gring, 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 gring.
He's just like going.
Yeah.
Does his 30 bar muscle ups, gets back on the bike, maybe 4th or 5th. And then hammers it.
Yeah.
James's pacing,
he's smart.
Needs more attention and fanfare. Maybe not yet, but just keep an eye on James's pacing in events because he is getting very good at it.
You know what's interesting is I think he is already at the intelligence of his pacing of Brent Fikowski. But he's not as neurotic to his pacing as Brent Fikowski.
Right.
Brent would sit there and like map it out 1.73 seconds for each rep.
Yeah.
Where James goes, I think he generally goes more by feel, more kind of intuitively. But the output, the end result ends up being the same, where he knows exactly how hard to push himself to finish a particular way.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, and we did see it. We saw it in the Open too. I mean, he was buried on 25-2. I was like, oh my God, dude, this okay, champ. Okay, now everyone's going to be laughing at you.
Right.
And if they would have had another round in there, he would have been up at the top. Like his pacing is amazing.
Oh, what's up, Barkley?
What's up, dude?
Thanks for hopping on in between really smart person meeting stuff. But yeah, just so the casual fan, keep it on. If an event gets programmed that's very pacing heavy, chippers, longer events, or even shorter events, don't sleep on James Sprague. I mean, look what he did in event 4 before this.
Yeah.
Just steady all the way through, goes out and won it. The But this one has a final. After the first 4, closing things out, how do you feel about it?
I liked it because it was fast. If you would have had people that were side by side, it would have been hard to tell exactly who was where on the bike. That's the only hard part I have with, even though these guys hammered the bike.
You mean visually?
Yeah, just to see where they could have been. I like what it was. It was fun. It was fun to watch. It was cool to see Roman do his thing and cool to see James do his thing. Personally, I would have rather had this at the beginning of the day and had event 3 at the end. Now, this is what I'm talking about, like, as you kind of move all the way through it.
Yeah.
Just because the end one was so visual to see where everyone was exactly where they were.
Very true.
I think that would have been more fun to see. I was really glad that they had this event because they needed more pooling.
They did.
What do you think? What about if they would have done ring muscle ups instead of bar muscle ups?
It would have been much slower.
True.
Much slower.
Do you think that would have? I mean,
and it would have looked too much like the semifinals from last year.
Oh, that's true. But we didn't have any ring muscle ups at all for these guys.
True. I mean, it's a good question. I think if they put, it would totally change the event.
100%. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
So
well, what if you went 30, 20, 30?
30, 20, 30? Ooh, yes. Not to bring in the judging thing. Although, it's a ring muscle up. Do it better.
Exactly. I mean, I have no problem with the event.
Yeah.
The event was great.
Yeah,
the races were great. It did exactly what we wanted it to do. Again, if we were looking at okay, as we're coming towards the end of the event here.
Okay, I will have loved both. Because everybody had 1, maybe 2 breaks on the 30 here. The same thing potentially could have happened. Maybe they could have gone unbroken for 20. If you missed trying to get there, you're done.
Yeah.
Right. You miss a bar muscle up, you can regroup a bit.
Yeah.
And get back up there. You can't do that on the rings.
Right.
The only reason I say no is because of last year. If last year's final didn't exist, I'd be like, yeah, either one. Pick one. I would have loved either one. Yes. But definitely change the reps. 30, 30, 30. That would have been, everybody would have gone slower. They would have paced things out more. Here, they're like, all right, bar muscle ups. I'm going to take a break. I'm not necessarily failing. Unless, never mind.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take shots. Some people were. I would.
But I like the event. It was, if you aren't going to have a final, and this is where we start talking about, like, not only what does it look like on paper, but what does it look like as the show that you are presenting.
Yeah.
And because when you have a live competition, you have fans that are watching, you want to be able to see what's going on. If you're broadcasting it, you need to be able to sit at home and flick it on and be able to tell who's in the lead.
Right.
So you want to be able to have that. And really, if you're going to have a final, the only 2 ways you can really do it correctly is it has to be so balls to the wall fast that it looks like the hinges are just coming off of whatever.
Sure.
And they're not going to be on the bike that long to really get lost in, like, well, I can't tell who's winning. All you know is that everyone's like, whoa, they're flying and the hairs are moving and the arms are flailing. And then by the time you figure out what everyone's happening, people are flying off the bike.
Yeah. And
they run to the finish line. So I think that's fine. The other thing is if you have a way to where it's either a step-by-step march that you see everybody moving down, whether that's going to be with, like, if we flip-flop this one with event 3 and have the rope climbs at the end where you can see exactly the reps of the thrusters that they would be on, or the rope climb that they're on, or are they going, are they waiting, are they whatever. It slows it down and it puts a lot of anxiety and a lot of like, oh, what's happening? Like, it just puts everyone under that pressure. I think those are the only 2 ways to do it. So either one would have been fine. Like I said, this one, because it was so fast and everyone was just hammering at the end, that still made it fun.
That's why last year's final event was so awesome.
Yeah.
30 cal bike, 15 ring muscle ups, lunge to the finish line. So that one was so great. One, you had every modality in there. Mm-hmm. You had to push the bike, but couldn't necessarily send the bike. You had to go unbroken on ring muscle ups unless you could hold onto the dumbbells. And that was a huge question mark. Like, it was so great. Visually awesome. Yeah. You got people screaming off the bike. You got to see that. Who cares where they were? 30 to 45 seconds, they're getting off.
Right.
And then you watch the rings with just like on the edge of your seat. Are they going to go unbroken? 7, 8, 9. Oh no, right? Or it's like 12, 13. Can they get it? And then just the death march to the finish line with those heavy ass dumbbells. It was one of the best finales I've seen.
Yeah.
Programmed, honestly, for me. And that kind of, and we'll get towards the end here. Leg fatigue on the Echo bike, pull press. There's a pressing element on the press out for the bar muscle up. The rig for the first time. Now, 5 events. You got ropes, rig, dumbbells, barbells, sandbag, high boxes. They had a little bit of everything. And you can see it, right? They had a little bit of everything in there. Time domains, 2 short, 1 moderate, 1 long, 1 sprint. And short being that 6 to 10 minute time frame. Modalities, a little heavier on gymnastics. It was 6-5-1. But 2 of the 5 events had a monostructural element in there. The weights were heavy or light. The light weights were high volume. The heavy weights were low volume. Great. Rep range volume, low to high. Nothing really in that moderate range, which is neither here nor there. That coincides with the light, moderate, heavy deal. And then your time domains. There's a decent balance of time domains there and stimulus. And then you look at the movement patterns, right? All the hoopla here. Squats. So many squats. Did you look at the pressing?
Dude, the pressing. Yeah. Like if for me, like when I'm looking at this, like the only, like if I'm talking about where did they mess up, and then it's a mess up, where did I think that they went light on?
Yeah.
I would say the pulling.
Isn't that surprising?
Which is crazy to me.
It's like, I don't see Rich as like a huge puller, but that guy was like a ring muscle up monster.
Right.
Like rope climb monster. And most people just enjoy pulling more. I mean, you love pulling.
I love pulling.
Love it. Who doesn't like a good bicep pump?
Exactly. But I like talking about the squat thing or even the leg work thing. Mm-hmm. To complain about too many squats, I think is ridiculous, since that will be the primary, most priority movement that we're going to have. That, and then pulling from the ground,
right?
And then support for pressing, and then pulling. Like almost, I mean, depending on the different pieces, but like generally that's where it's going to go if you're looking at power output.
Right.
So it should have all of those pieces in there.
You want to see something fun?
Yes. Show me something cool.
So we had 120 squats on day 1, 3 rounds of 40. We had 72 thrusters and then lunges. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden squats are a problem, right? Let me just take you back to the 2013 regionals.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Hiller had this.
But Hiller left some out.
There was a lot, but like, but it's
5 thrusters in event 1.
Right.
3 heavy ass overhead squats after that.
Yep.
For multiple rounds, 100 wall ball shots, and in the same event, 100 pistols.
Yep.
Box jumps at 30 inches. My legs don't get a break there. They sure as shit don't get a break with 315-pound deadlifts. And then I go to event 6 and I have to do shoulder overhead. Well, that's leg fatiguing. So if we're going to count it all, let's count it all.
Anytime your leg bends.
And I got a 90-foot walking lunge with an axle bar. And then in the last event, I got to do 16 squat cleans at 225.
Yeah, didn't
Nobody talk about
they don't
that,
even know
man.
what they're talking about. They have no idea what they're talking about. None. Brian doesn't know what he's talking about.
Oh, well, he named it.
I will say it because like that's the problem.
Not true.
Like,
You don't say names enough. It's just
like I'm not. The thing is it fine? He's calling it out. He just wants to get people talking. Then that's fine.
It's for
everybody.
a reason.
Everybody wants to do their thing. I get it. But the thing is that he doesn't know what he's talking about with that. He just doesn't. He's not a programmer. He's not a programming geek like we are. He's not a numbers guy. He's not the level of coach that we are or the athlete that we are that we've had to go to whatever to figure out to get to the games. He doesn't know that. All he knows is we said that WFP didn't have any squats and it was dumb. And then this happened. So it is what it is, man.
But we recognize that in the online semifinals as well.
Right.
So
Like it totally. I called it there too. Like that was a mistake.
Yeah.
It was a mistake. But to say that you're squatting too much, shut up.
Hey, Bill, I looked at one of your best performance weekends, the 2012 regionals.
Yeah.
50 one-legged squats.
Mm-hmm.
This one was great. 50 back squats, 50 front squats, 50 overhead squat. Well, that's 150.
150 right there.
Snatch ladder. And then 63 wall ball shots. Burpee box. The old kitchen sink.
That was totally.
And this is why we got upset with the programming for age groupers. It's like squatting is what we do.
Yes.
It has to be there. Right?
If
you look at it, there's way more pressing.
There's so much.
7 different movement patterns involving some sort of press. 3 involving squats. Or sorry, 2 squats, 1 lunge.
Yeah.
So, pressing. All right. Now, that being the analyzing part, things that I would like to see as a viewer, right, when running an in-person qualifier or an in-person competition, and this is in addition to, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, we should have done this in the programming. But in event 1, and this is all space related, but there was space for it, and they could have done it. For the viewer, if you don't always have the luxury, right? Online, we have the luxury of live scoring, which I will be shocked if anybody else gets that. Shocked. In person, you don't have that luxury. So what is everybody doing for 40 feet squats? They're either counting that one person, but they're watching the whole thing. So they're like, all right, I'm just going to sit here for a minute and wait for the hand to go up. I think it would have been really cool to just see is every 10 reps advance forward. And if that's too much movement, then 20. But what you could have done is every 10 reps just move to, there was enough squares, 12. Just be like 10, 10, 10, go run. Come back, 10, 10, 10, go run, 10, 10. Closer, 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 closer. Right? They advanced every round, so that was really nice.
They could have, if you're moving 3 feet.
Yeah, you just step forward.
It's like, yeah, they could have done it.
I would have liked to see that if I didn't have live scoring. I had live scoring, so I wasn't at the mercy of, I wonder what rep they're on. But from a visual standpoint, something to consider.
Well, like JR always looks at that when he's doing his stuff. Whether, and granted, he doesn't have live scoring in his events, but that's something that he always takes into consideration. And I mean, you talk about that all the time too, mostly for when you're doing your broadcasting. Whether you have live scoring or not, it's always easiest to immediately take your eye right to it. You know exactly who is in the lead.
Right.
And they know that if there are 3 people in the same spot, okay, whoever steps forward okay, we know that they're ahead and we know about how much they're moving ahead by.
And when someone steps forward, everybody goes, oh.
Right.
And our producers and directors, Rothy and Barney and that whole crew, all the time would always say, it should be designed in a way that if someone turned on the TV,
Yep.
they could figure out what was happening in 5 seconds, which is why it's so valuable that the broadcasters are on point.
Yep.
And visually it was on point. And what you could have done is 4 blocks, 10, 20, 30, 40, round 1 vertically on the side of it. 4 blocks, round 2, 4 blocks, round 3. So when you turn on TV, you're like, all right, round 2, they're on 30 squats and there's 3 people there. She's on 20. All right. And then Sean's coming in. He's like 3-rep lead for Visa Gaffi on Emily Rolfe. Done. Simple. Not changing your programming. Just the way it presents live.
Yeah.
The other one, I mean, the event 4, great. You can't move a GHD.
Right.
Whatever,
Totally.
right? You can't move a GHD, but everybody's moving there. That was beautiful. The snatch ladder, beautiful. They did it in the snatch ladder. They advanced every 5.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. On the legless thruster one, if you want to get nitpicky, but just be consistent for me, the round of 27, 999.
Totally.
777, 666, or whatever. What is it? 555, 333. And then you just get that little move, and you just watch the Frogger of fitness march down the floor.
Yeah, that would have been cool to see too.
Not changing anything. And I think that was the hard part. Not the hard part, but the one thing that you were really discussing on the finale is that it's such an exciting time. It's such an exciting event. And the hardest thing to do is that you sit there with watching just people race on the bike for the final 30.
Yeah. But the plus to that, well, I'll say this, that event, as fun as it was, completely rode the line. Like if it was 50 calories, it would have been too much for the final.
Very true.
Because that's what I mean. Like it's like you know you're only gonna be there for those last 30 calories for those athletes, like in a minute. You know what I mean? And it's like you saw everyone get on there, and there's a couple more people get on the bikes, and by the time that like you actually have the people that are now all on, and you're just looking at like the craziness of them getting after it, someone's coming off.
Right.
Like that was the maximum amount of time that you could have as far as attention span goes for that.
It's the perfect rep scheme.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is why I wouldn't change anything in the final.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
And exactly. We're going to sit here intensely for 45 seconds, maybe a minute. And as people are coming on and like getting on the bike to try to match up, you still have these things that are happening. And so say by the time you got 6 guys on the bike within 20 seconds, well, you're already 30 seconds in, a hand's going up in the next 15.
Right.
So
exactly.
you're if it was 50, oof.
That's what I mean. Like that time frame, that, I mean, it that maximized the time frame for sitting in one spot. That made it okay.
All right. And again, these are just visual things. That's it. Like, oh, this was too much, or I would have done that. The one thing we went back and forth was because we recognized the amount of pressing. And it's hard to be like, what do we tweak here without totally changing the entire scope of anything? It's like, all right, it's like, okay, event 1 and event 2, as we said, those 2 actually picked who was going to win. So different. Very 2007 CrossFit Games-esque without the, the total. It's like, okay, we went long, we did mixed modal, and then we just went heavy. And then they found the fittest person there. I thought that was kind of cool.
That is super cool.
Whereas usually it's like one extreme versus the other. It's like, all right, who's the most well-conditioned, work capacity-based person here? All right, kind of found him. All right, who's the strongest, cycling a barbell under fatigue person here? It'd be different. It was like, I bet if it was 5K and 1 rep max snatch, those aren't the same people that are sitting.
No, not even close.
Which is why day 1 was so great.
Yeah.
And I didn't even realize that until I found out who was winning after day 1. I was like, son of a bitch.
Yeah.
It's the same people.
Well, and we talk a lot about, especially when you're talking the barbell stuff. If you're able to move 75%, 80% of your 1 rep max quickly for reps. That shows fitness to me. Doesn't show strength necessarily, not just like pure strength. But it definitely shows fitness. And so that bleeds a strength bias in towards fitness, where then you had the longer one, which is going to be your classic kind of endurance-y type of stuff, but you have the other movements in there, so it kind of blurs the line the other way.
Well, it's
So
also endurance with
blends
reps, right? It wasn't endurance with machines or endurance with classic monostructural movement. It was endurance with volume of repetitions, where they were fast and lightweight with the sandbags, or slow and monotonous with the burpee box get-overs.
Yeah.
I think we've overlooked the middle portion because there wasn't a whole lot there, but there was enough there. Like if you weren't on, I know it was slow, you could have lost the most time there.
Well, it's slow, but that's the thing. Like it's slow, but you cannot stop.
It's like burpee pull-ups. Ugh. Awful. Like, this sucks. I can't go any faster to get this over with, and every rep is slow, so I just sit here.
Just sit here and just stew.
It was just like regular burpees. At least I'm moving up and down frequently. Like, I hate devil's press. Oh, swing, pull overhead, hit yourself with the dumbbells, pout for a half a second, and now I've already lost 2 next to the person who's way fitter and stronger than I am. All right. Thumbs, review. I think you went first last time, right?
I did, yeah.
Ooh, all right. I'm starting at a 1, but I'm going to go up.
Okay.
Event 1. So I'm already at a 1, so I have 0.2 to allocate per event, right? So for event 1, you're going to get a 0.1 because I really would have liked to seen the bag advance. So we're at 1.1. Heavy Isabel, 0.2. We're at 1.3. Thrusters, ropes. I would have liked to seen the dumbbell advance. From a viewer standpoint, I realize I'm being nitpicky, but when you do a decent job, we have to be. So now I'm at a 1.4.
Okay.
I like midline march. 1.6. And I like the final. 1.8 is a strong.
Dude, I was watching you. You're like, I'm fouling up my own scoring system.
No, I'm not fouling it up. The sitting on the bike twice and watching, I'll half it. So I'm 1.7.
Okay.
You got a 1.7 from me, and I nitpicked the shit out of that. But 1.7. To do that in 5 events, to do that over the course of 2 days, to qualify 2 people where everyone can sit back and be like, these were the fittest people here. This is a nice, well-rounded test to do in 5. For all of those things that they did, I thought they did a 1.7 job of getting that done. Have you heard anybody say that like these weren't the right 2 people because of the programming?
I've heard people try. I've heard people try to make that point. It hasn't been successful, but I've heard a couple people.
I mean, without people just saying bullshit, right?
Yeah, not really. Not really. Yeah. That's a good score.
It's a high score. We usually don't give them that high.
I know,
but I don't have any real takeaways.
I'm much more intuitive with my score, is more of a gut kind of a feeling. I was really happy with the job that Rich and the guys did as far as program went. It was very him-esque, very Mayhem-esque. I loved everything that they did with the programming. I agree with the same things you said as far as like moving the bag on the squats and the thrusters. I agreed with all those things. I do feel like there was some pulling that was missing. I do feel like I would have rather seen some skills that we didn't hit yet that we're going to be advancing athletes to the games with, being that we just did bar muscle-ups in the open. it wasn't a lot of bar muscle-ups. It was only 15, which is stupid, but
Mm-hmm.
whatever. Like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I was gonna go with my initial was a 1.5,
Mm-hmm.
but I want, like, that didn't sound like it gave it enough credit, so I was a 1.55.
Oh, okay.
So I that is very,
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm stoked on what it was. I'm stoked on who they got through. I'm stoked on the races that we got to see. I'm stoked on the way that they put the events together. I'm stoked at the elements that Rich was really pushing.
Yeah.
I love the fact that there were athletes that aren't going to the games, that didn't get on the podium, that still had fantastic showing, just to be able to showcase what the event's supposed to look like. Like Haley.
Yes.
On the midline march. I mean, like, to see her do what she was doing and watch her just obliterate.
That totally changed my
men
perspective.
Men and women crush everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, I just thought that was really cool. So
where did that come from?
dude, like, that was wild. But that's 1.55 for me. I thought they did great.
I got now that we've given our grades, I'll throw out one, because you mentioned more upper body pulling.
Yeah.
And we mentioned some of the pressing. Now, a lot of that pressing was combined with some legs. What if event 3, it was the same 27, 21, 15, 9 of, say, heavy kettlebell deadlifts, and then like a 6, 5, 4, 3 regular rope climbs. And I've got a hinge, grippy, pulling from the floor. And then what's 6, 5, 4, 3? Is that 18?
Yeah.
18 rope climbs. Would that be enough of a pulling addition? And you're also coming off of, I guess that would have been the first event.
I think I would have. I think I would have rather had a
very
clean rather than a deadlift.
Okay. Like barbell clean?
A barbell clean.
Okay. Like power cleans?
Yeah, because we don't need to squat them. We've already squatted.
True.
So this isn't the age group online qualifier. It doesn't have to be real heavy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for these guys, I would have gone like, 135, 95.
135, 95. Okay.
And then the rope climbs.
Just
I would have kept the numbers that they had and the legless.
Okay. So no change, just do power cleans instead of thrusters.
Yep.
Whew, 27, 21, 15, 9. Yeah. I mean, you still get a hinge pull with the power clean. Mm-hmm. And then the offset that hinge pull posterior work and the pull from barbell to rope climb on the next event, you've got anterior flexion and core fatigue with pressing and lunges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would have been 2 thumbs up right there.
Oh, 2? 2?
I'm just saying that because I picked the event. So, of course, I'm going to give it a 2.
They used my event. It is a 2.5. Like, Bill, the number factor. It's a 3. Oh, great job, Mayhem. Great job, Rich.
You guys did awesome. That was fun.
Yes. I'm excited to see. What there's a break this week, and the Masters are going on now. So it's a good break. Nobody's going to watch otherwise. And then it starts to get real busy next weekend. Don't we have 2 events over Easter?
Yeah, which is
they're not local events, are they?
No.
Just those godless heathen countries. Is it Asia? No, I'm just kidding. But it is, isn't it? No. All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Happy Friday. 200 of you guys watching. Thank you guys so much for the support. Please hit that like button on your way out if you haven't subscribed. If you want to do more for us than you already do, the likes do make a difference for us. You can join our membership. It just gives you cool decals. We appreciate the hell out of you guys. It does wonders for us, allows us to keep doing these things. And we'd be doing it anyways if you guys weren't here, but we do appreciate that you are. Hope you guys have a great Friday. Have a great weekend, and we will see you guys on Monday.